Okay, today we're going to be learning about the very relevant halachas of korech. The Torah at the end of the end of Sif Aleph of Siman Taf Ayin Hey says that afterwards, "V'achakach noitel matzah shlishis," we take the third matzah because remember the first two matzahs we use for the regular matzah. That was the top one and the middle one, which was broken. So now, "V'achakach noitel matzah shlishis." Now we take the third matzah. Ubotzeh mimenu, and you cut from it. I don't know what that bang is. It must be clean for Pesach over here. I apologize. Ubotzeh mimenu, and you cut from the third one. The korech mamara, and you use it to wrap it with the mara. I'm going to say something very, very interesting over here. I saw an idea brought down that the korech sandwich should in fact be a sandwich with the mara on the outside and the matzahs on the inside. We obviously don't do that. We do the matzah on the outside. Just a very interesting idea just to throw out there. Anyway, so this is what we do. We have the sandwich. We eat it simultaneously. We eat it all together. All together. Zecher, this commemorates Zecher Lemikdash Kilo, Shahaya Korech Beitzamah Umar Va'oichel. This commemorates what Hillel would do when he would put everything together. Right in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. The cost of Avia is reaching the top of Becharois change of Matzin was manazeh. Okay, fine. That we already discussed. And now this is going to get discussed a little bit more. What about dipping this in the charosas? All right. So the Torah talks about this a little, and then he says that's what my father the Rosh says as well, that you should dip it in the charosas. That's what Hill would do when he would eat the Pesach matzah and moro. He would dip it in the charosas. Then he says kosav achi, as the Torah does sometimes. My brother writes, Rabbi Chil Zal Misafka li bekrichi boy haseba. If Yechiel is at doubt, he's unsure if a person is obligated to recline or not when it comes to this korech over here. So this is very interesting. What would be the reasoning not to? Dekevan de maror, since you have maror that is in there, loy boy haseba. Maybe you would in fact not need to recline. Ubalamanik kosav de boy haseba. Sefer Hamanik says that no, you do need to recline. Bavor shahamatza sheba zeich lecheres, because the matzah. The matzah comes to commemorate what? To commemorate the freedom. So therefore, in order to commemorate the freedom and the matzah, one would in fact be obligated to recline. The Beis Yosef over here talks about several fundamental points. Basically begins by quoting the Gemara. This is all from Gemara Psachim in the 10th parak. And the Gemara over there says, he doesn't quote exactly where, I think it's Kuf Tez Zayin. I will see about that. Kuf Tez Vav, somewhere around there. I learned it many years ago. Anyways, the Beis Yosef over here quotes that, yeah, Kuf Tez Vav Manalf. So the Beis Yosef over here quotes that the Gemara over there relates that Hillel would wrap them together, right? He would wrap all this together. That's what Hillel would do. Now you have a major discussion over here, because Rabbi Yochanan says that no, Hillel's friends would argue on him, his colleagues, all right? Meaning they would all eat it individually. They wouldn't wrap it together. They would have the individual items, right? But they wouldn't all wrap it together necessarily. So the Gemara over there concludes now that the Gemara doesn't definitively rule like one of the opinions. So now, therefore, we do what we do, aka that you make the bracha on the matzah, eat it, then you make the bracha on the maror, eat it, and then you return and you put everything together in the sandwich. And you don't say bracha, but it's zeich lemikdash gehel. Yeah? Fine. That's where this comes from. Now, comes along Taisus and the Rosh and explains that you make the bracha on the matzah and eat it, because if you would, why can't you just go straight to the sandwich and put it all together? So the answer is, if you do that, so now you have Asi Moror de Rabbanon Mevata Lamatzah. I love this line. Now the Moror, which would be a rabbinic obligation, would come and it would nullify or cancel the matzah, which is a obligation min ha-Torah, midaraisa. It's a Torah obligation. It's a biblical obligation. So therefore, the Moror, so to say, which is a halachically weaker status and obligation, would come and now negate the stronger status of what? Of the matzah. It's kind of like if you ever eat something and you have a spice or something that is very powerful and is a main ingredient, it will take away the delicious flavors from the other ingredients. It overpowers it. So just like in a physical sense that could occur, the Rishonim over here, the Gemara is teaching us something fascinating, that could happen with mitzvahs as well. That one mitzvah has in fact the ability to overpower another mitzvah and completely forget about it. The chain is, it's like if two people are talking and one person just talks much louder than the other person, and the other person you can't hear the other person. His voice isn't you can't hear it. V'im hayoichel matzah below maro. So let's say you just eat the matzah without the maro techila. Kishahaya korechon. Achakach asi matzah dirashus mevatel maro dirabon. So now so why don't you just say just leave out the maro? You know, just guys have the matzah go straight to the sandwich. The answer is no. If you're going to do that, now the maro is going to have a higher obligation than the matzah, because the maro is going to be an obligation or a rabbinic obligation, a chiyuv midrabanan, whereas the matzah will only be optional, so to say, matzah dirashus, voluntary. Therefore, the maro would cancel out and overpower the matzah. So this, in a nutshell, is incredibly insightful and informative as to why we do what we do at the Seder. I bet you that your average person has no clue why they do it. And this is it. This is a very good explanation, not just the Gemara, but coming from some Rishonim over here. Yeah? Now, the next Beis Yosef quotes the Agur, who quotes the Mahari Moilin, who says that they like the dipping in the charoses. Aval. However, conversely, explains the Maharil, that when you are eating the maror, you should dip it in, but you shake it off over there. You shake off the charoses after. So you have a difference in halach over there. A very interesting idea.
What about a shaila about that's 3 dippings, not 2 dippings?
No, so it's all considered one dipping. That's the idea.
Dipping for the maror.
Plus you're shaking it off, so it's not really dipping.
So you shake it off by the maror also?
No, just by the maror, he says you shake it. By the first time, again, be careful. By the first time,
you're not. You shake it off.
Yeah, but when you're doing
korech,
you're not over here. He says no. There's no shake. There's only a one shake. So that's the double dipping. How it's still 2. Yeah, because again, you're shaking one time. The other time you're not. Yeah. Right. The first one is going to be by the karpas, and then the second is over here. Now comes along the next Beis Yosef when he's quoting his brother who talks about he wasn't sure do you need to recline or not. Says the Beis Yosef, but for sure you have to recline. Why? That Hillel when he would make the sandwich, right? He would recline when he would eat that. This is a very important idea. Hillel went straight to the sandwich. You didn't need to do any of this, because remember, back then it was
deraisa.
Right, exactly. So you didn't have this problem of mitzvahs mevatel and zu, that one mitzvah can cancel out another because they had an equal obligation. So Hillel, he was fulfilling his obligation with the sandwich that he made, and he would recline. And if we're doing this to commemorate what Hillel did, so then therefore we need to recline. So this is all of the reasoning and the rationale. Amazing stuff that most people have no clue why we do this. But this is what the Beis Yosef, tremendous amount of insight in this Beis Yosef. He says over here that the matzah sricha, that the matzah needs to do what? Haseba. Even though the Mara doesn't require haseba, nevertheless, if you want to eat it while reclining, there's no problem over there. And also, it's clear from the Rambam that way. This is the Beis Yosef. What is this? This is a little base over here. Okay, this idea we already spoke about a little bit, but what the reason why if you would eat the matzah first without the maror, but why we need to do it in this order, because one mitzvah will cancel another, whichever way you go. So comes along in the footnote over here the Chedushi Hagos, quoting the Maharlach, that says Kol zeh bizman hazeh demaru derabanan. This all applies nowadays that the maror is midrabanan, is a rabbinic obligation in nature. Mashenkin conversely. Aval bisman shebeis migdash kayim. However, when the base of Mikdash was around, and the maror was an obligation from the Torah, Hillel would go straight to the sandwich. One mitzvah wouldn't cancel the other one because they were all a obligation from the Torah. They were all deraises.
Did Hillel have charosas?
Hillel have charosas? Why not? Very well be. Comes along the Drisha. He goes into this a little bit more, and he says that the Beis Yosef Taisvus, when he quotes this, excuse me, the Beis Yosef, when he quotes this Taisvus, his agenda is to explain why we split everything up. First we have the matzah, then we have the maror, then we do the sandwich. That's his agenda. That's obvious over there. All right, that's basically what he says over here. And he says something interesting. If we would hold like Hillel, we would just do the matzah first, and then we go straight to the sandwich. Right? So that's the idea. But nowadays that we can't do that because maybe we hold like the rabbis, and therefore, since you already ate the matzah, if you're going to put the maror in there, so now it's going to be completely optional, and just like it would be a problem if a mitzvah daraisa would cancel out a mitzvah derabbanan, a mitzvah from the Torah, aka a rabbinic mitzvah, aka the maror, would cancel out a mitzvah daraisa and overpower it, aka the matzah, which is a biblical obligation. So then, so too, something that is optional, aka if we already ate the matzah first and then we would have the matzah with the maror, would cancel out something that's rabbinic, aka the maror. So therefore, because of this doubt, we first eat. And this situation that we have, this issue, we first eat the matzah, then the maror, and then we do the sandwich. So this is explaining why we do this.
How does the Risha say that Hillel ate the matzah first and then the matzah and the maror? Because according to that svara, the matzah would cancel out the maror.
How would it? Oh, if he ate the matzah first. I was thinking, where is he coming from? Because we just saw that he went straight to the chase. He did them all together. So this is Taisus and the Ran saying, no, not that Hillel would do this. Not that Hillel would do this. Be careful. That if we would hold like Hillel, then we would do this.
Then we would do this.
Then we would do this. Then we would do this. Which, of course, if we would do this, so then the question goes back to its place, which would be, wait a second, if we would have the matzah first, so now the matzah, which is optional, we can't. It could be because of the Hillel to copy him. The question is why we need to do is just go straight to the sandwich. All right, this is what to look into over here.
So my question about the charosas pops back up, unless he didn't put that much, because if you're fulfilling the rices together, the flavor of the charosas might cancel.
No. Because we learned. Why don't we say bracha and charosas? It's tofa, secondary. You don't need to worry about it. It's a small thing. Over here, a maror is a whole entity. It has a chashivas that in and of itself, and you're saying a bracha on it, and it's a higher level than the charosas. Yeah, it's strong, but in terms of from a mitzvah perspective, it's not. It's a weak thing, so to say. It doesn't mean it's not important, but now the next part of the Torah concludes with something that we discussed yesterday, actually, and the Torah writes that haroitze, this is all quoting the Sefer Hamanig again, haroitze l'kayem mitzvah muvchar, someone who wants to fulfill a preferable mitzvah, lo yasiach ad sheyasa kricha kehelo. Don't converse, don't talk until you make the sandwich like Hillel. Till you fulfill your obligation of the sandwich, rather. Kadesha tala lo bracha, matzah umorah l'kricha kehelo. In order that the bracha that you're saying on the matzah and maror will last for this for the korech. The ham yishum deloit marach zalokim avlo kimar avdin lochum kitravai hachanam linyan bracha sheichel mevli chal cheshneim besichas huden sarach lizar aval tukruch lavi hefsek. Right, because just like we're at doubt what to do over here, and therefore we do this triple play thing over here, so then so too the bracha. Could very well be that the bracha is going to go on that sandwich. So therefore a person has to be careful not to talk about matters that aren't pertaining to the matzah or the maror. If it is pertaining to the matzah and maror, then technically it wouldn't be an interruption, even so it's preferable even not to. All right, so this is a mitzvah min hamuvchar. This is halachically preferable. And this we're going to see is going to make it into the Shulchan Aruch as well. I feel like I never knew this before I started learning.
Metzias wise, though.
Yeah,
it's very hard. If you have little kids at the table, I'm past that, but you have little kids at the table. It's not very easy to accomplish.
Why not? They have little kids. So what's the problem? You say the bracha. They say, "Pass me this, pass me that," and or you tell them before. You said, "Look, this is the halacha. This is what we got to do."
Depends
it's
on
like
the kids.
It's of course it depends on the kids. Look, our kids, our oldest is 4 right now. Our 4-year-old, or and 3-year-old, whatever. So they know you wash, and you're not supposed to talk after you wash before you cut the challah, before you say the bracha.
Right, so this is a little harder.
But they can't always handle that. Okay, so they talk. They're not even Hagila Chinuch yet.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying that CS wise for the parents, it's just it's great, if you're like, you're older and your kids are older,
Yes.
they understand.
Yes.
But they're whiny, they're tired.
You do the best you
Do the
could.
best you can. That's
You do
all.
the best you could. Look, we didn't learn about it this year, but I did put up on the Seder Divrei Torah playlist pre-Seder nap. That was actually a good one. It's only like 10 minutes. But the idea is that there is certainly an idea of napping them beforehand. And a big idea, and that's what I discussed over there in that one. Pre-Seder nap, good stuff over there. So that's so that they could focus and be involved. And look, if they are tired and they're still up there and whatever, you do the best you could. You tell them if they're not going to listen, they're not going to listen. Hopefully, by you saying something that will at least change the scenario, because or else no one's going to know. I don't think this is printed in the Haggadahs, this halacha either. Yeah, so this is a good example of you can't learn halacha just from a Haggadah. Know what to do. You've got to learn it and properly understand it. Like we're seeing over here, the Haggadahs don't explain why you have to do this whole three thing. We have to do first the Pesach, the Matzah. Meanwhile, this is 3 out of 15 simanim of the Seder. We're talking motzi, matzah, mar, korech. So people who aren't learning this are lacking in understanding of 3 out of the 15 of the simanim.
2 of the big 3.
2 of the big 3?
Yeah, Gamliel.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Rabbi Gamliel, yeah. Anyways, that
korech supposed to represent
Rabbi Gamliel, when he says he's really talking about also talking about it and elaborating on it.
No,
Really.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's a deep lesson here. Okay, so this is the Beis Yosef comes along the Bach, and he says, look. What we're talking about certainly isn't ma'akiv. It's not going to hold the person back from fulfilling his obligation. We're not talking about b'diavad over here. Right. Even Hillel himself. V'af Hillel gufa in tzarich lechol matzah amar b'yachad b'zman hazeh delika pesach t'shaper yotzi dei chavos v'masher mevarach hamatzah l'chudi v'achol mevarach hamar l'chudi v'achol. Even Hillel, if he was around today, he'd say, look, if you just make a bracha on the matzah, you eat it. On the maror, you eat it, you fulfill your obligation. Right? Mikol makom, kevan de amrinon. Nevertheless, since we say over here that the halacha is not stated as one way or the other, like it was when the Beis Hamikdash was around, so therefore we stringently want to go like both opinions even nowadays, as if the Beis Hamikdash is around, and therefore that's why you would do the sandwich as well and eat it. In kima meila b'inyan lemeva nami bracha. That's why we also say bracha kilo haya Beis Hamikdash kayim shel yasiach ad she'asakrichi kehil. That's why we also don't want to interrupt, in order that the bracha will go on the matzah and the maror with the sandwich. In other words, technically speaking, this korech would require bracha. It's just that we are banking on and relying, we're piggybacking off of the brachas that we previously said on the actual matzah that we ate and the maror. But technically speaking, it would require a bracha. For some reason, someone wouldn't do that and they would just do the sandwich. They would need to say bracha on that. Right? So the idea is over here that what? That even though you wouldn't go back, b'diavad, even though that b'diavad you wouldn't go back and make the bracha, kedamar lahedyo v'alchil below bracha, mikomalkom ki heichi, televa zeichel lemikdash mamish nachon lizara bekach ubekayim mitzvah muvchar. So therefore, that's why this is a mitzvah muvchar. This is why it's halachically preferable not to talk, because we're trying to commemorate, we're attempting to recall what happened in the Beis Hamikdash itself, and therefore one has to be very careful not to talk until he finishes korech. Right? Look, I want to point something out. Even though this is all within a mitzvah and a muvchar, the Torah Lamaisa says that unless it's sichas chulin, for sure you need to be careful. If you're going to say something that has to do with the matzah or with the maror, so then fine, you could do that. Look, but we have to use our knowledge for Siman Kuf Samach Zayin. And we learned over there in Hilchos B'siyas Hapas in Kuf Samach Zayin that if a person is going to interrupt a marshal, they're going to come along and say, oh, pass the salt over. Oh, we forgot the knife. Get the knife from the kitchen before cutting the challah. If you can motion, it's better to motion. It's better not to talk. It's the same thing over here. There's a tremendous amount of chesron yediyah over here. People don't realize this. No talking until from the time a person washes by rachsa till after motzi matzah, maror, and korech, and announce it. I think I might have forgot to say it. Those who have the minhag to announce the simanim, you should announce. Rachsa, Motzi, Matzah, Maror, Korech. Announce them all four in one shot. Don't announce it after you wash. Don't announce it even after you have the matzah or the maror. Announce it all in one shot and do like what I do. Make a public service announcement. Guys, if you want my attention, I can't answer questions. I can't participate. I'm not giving a Dvar Torah now. I'm eating the matzah. That is the avoda. I'm eating the matzah, the maror, and then the korech. This is the Torah. Let's go along, and we're going to jump straight to the Mishnah Brew over here. Let's see how much we could do in 15 minutes that we have left, because we gotta move over here, because I got a lot of chidush. We have a lot to go into over here. We're not going to do the Oz V'Hadar. We're going to try to tackle everything right now. There's a couple dare shoes just to tackle. We're going to have to just move over here. First of all, this is the famous Be'er Halacha that became famous because we learned about it yesterday. This is where the Be'er Halacha says, wait a second, you say Zeichel Mikdash Gehel? Kasha haloy amira zoylo havi hefsek, excuse me, bein bracha lekricha. How are you saying Zeichel Mikdash Gehel? It's an interruption between the recitation of the bracha and the sandwich. Granted, you said, then you already ate your matzah, then you ate your maror. Fine, very good. So you're going to say the bracha's chal. No! What do we just learn in the Beis Yosef from all the Rishonim? Korech needs a bracha also. It's just that it's covered from the previous brachas. Also, now saying Zeichel Mikdash Gehel, that is considered a hefsek. That's an interruption. That constitutes as an interruption. Comes to the Be'er Halacha Mechaber B'atzma L'Sayim Shein Lo Lahasiach. Shulchan Aruch himself says you're not supposed to talk. Oh, let's see the Shulchan Aruch, by the way. We didn't even see the Shulchan Aruch, and then we'll come back to this. Shulchan Aruch himself says, then you take the matzah shlishis, the third one all the way in the bottom, you cover it, and you wrap it with the maror, and then you dip it in the charoses. Comes the Ramah, some say you don't need dip it in the charoses. That's what I saw as the custom. I'll have to come back that more in the Mishnah, bro. See how he goes. You say Zeichel Mikdash Gehel, says the Shulchan Aruch. And you eat it together while reclining. You see the language of the Shulchan Aruch is a little more starker than the Torah says. It's a little stronger language. Don't talk. Don't talk about something that it doesn't have to do with the maror or the matzah or something with the suda until you eat the sandwich. In order that the bracha will what? In order that the brachas of achilas matzah and achilas maror will fall on this sandwich as well. Of a shaychus connection. So you see, he's certainly Shulchan Aruch is certainly giving a harsher language. According to the Torah, it's mitzvah mufcha. It's preferable. Shulchan Aruch saying straight up, no, this is halacha. Don't talk. I'm not telling you it's a cherry on the cake. This is the cake. Don't talk.
But his order,
yeah,
is Zeichel Mikdash Gehel, and then you eat it biyachad behaseba.
Yeah, so
The Shulchan Aruch is saying
right.
To say, oh, Zeichel Mikdash Gehel first.
Correct. That's why it comes along the Be'er Halacha.
Understood.
Hold on. Says the Be'er Halacha. The Shulchan Aruch himself said at the end, you shouldn't talk. It's a far-fetched pshat to say. Don't say, it's a difficult idea to say that this statement of, oh, we're doing this to remember Zeichel Mikdash Gehel, the base of Mikdash like Hillel did it. Don't say that it has to do with the Suda. Don't say that it has to do with it.
Then the Mechaber would have said it afterwards.
I know.
And the Mechaber would have said it
I know, 100%. He's going to say Pshat, I think he's going to say Pshat in the Mechaber in a minute. He's going to say Pshat in Shulchan Aruch in a minute. Ube'emes lo matzasi l'shum poisek haylishna shekos Mechaber. This line itself is very controversial. I never found in any posek, and I never found in any halachic authority this language that the Shulchan Aruch said that you say Zeichel Mikdash Gehel before eating the korech. Rather, what do they write? The krichazo who Zeichel Mikdash. No. This sandwich, the korech is to commemorate, it's to remember the base of Mikdash. They don't say that you should actually say it. Maybe when the Shulchan Aruch said this, he didn't do it. It was lav dafka. It was not specific when he said this. When he said that you should say it and then eat it, he just meant that first you start eating it, and then afterwards you say the Zeichel Mikdash. You start eating the korech and then say the Zeichel Mikdash. But Lula Mistapina says the Be'er Halacha had it not been for my fear. Havi Amina, I would have said the Sarach Lamer B'chamer v'toivo b'charois eseichel mikdash kilo. Change the text of the Shulchan Aruch. Don't read the Shulchan Aruch that what you should say to Zeichel Mikdash. Say no, that you should dip the sandwich in the charosis to remember what happened in the Beis Hamikdash. Kiloshin hashas v'kol. That's the language of the Gemara and all the poskim. V'hai v'oimer who shitva the lishon of v'sarachin. He says this is a very questionable terminology over here. It should be pointed out that poskim actually do bring down to do this. It's brought in many places. It's brought in the Maharil and the Shilos and Chuvas. If I'm not mistaken, Simon Peiches. The Lavush brings it down. There are others as well that bring this down. I actually pull it up over here on the screen. About all of the exact people who pull it up, because I remember I just added to this. Right over here. Here's who says it. If you want to know the who's who says to do this interruption. What does it say over here? Custom is to say as a reminder. I literally just did it this morning. Here. The Darkei Moshe says to do it. That's the Ramah. Okay, that's in Os Gimel in our Simon. The Prague Haga. Oh no, it's not in here. I didn't fix it in here. I just did it this morning. It's in this one. It's in our Simon. Sorry about that for the delay. He says over here. This is everyone that I know of who says to do it. The Lavush, the Marshal, in Simon Peiches, like I said, Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Prague Haggadah, they all say to do it. So this is the Be'er Halacha. Okay, let's take a look at the. You know, I don't even want to do these Mishnah Berurahs right now because pretty much we already know everything that he says anyways. I don't want to run out of time. If we have more time, we'll finish it. I just want to share a few very important points in the Dersha Mishnah Berurah over here. Number one, this is the interesting idea over here that to maybe do the sandwich reverse. The Mara is on the outside. Of course, that's not our custom. I just thought that was a very interesting thing. But then over here says something very important. Someone who is very difficult for him to eat the Mara with the matzah simultaneously. So Moshe says that if it's very difficult because a person is sick, so even though there's no danger, you could be lenient and he could have even less than a kazayas worth of Mara, the size of an olive. But if the difficulty, specifically by the korech. However, if the difficulty is not because of a sickness, one could not be lenient. Says something interesting, a side point, if the Seder falls out on Shabbos, so some say it's prohibited to shake off the charosis because it's borer. Comes along with Nisim Karelis and says that no, you're allowed to shake it off. It's not considered a pu'ulos bereira, an act of separating, which would be a problem of borer, because many times some of the charosis remains attached to the mar, and therefore it wouldn't be considered borer. Okay, this is the Dershu, and then over here they quote a Shulchan Aruch Harav. I want to see the Shulchan Aruch Harav inside because they don't quote the entire thing, and I literally just made this file an hour ago this morning. The Shulchan Aruch Harav in Ar Siman, in Os Chaf, talks about B'diavad if a person did not recline for korech, would he fulfill his obligation? So we learned by Matzah you would not. So he starts off by saying over here that this sandwich, some say that you don't need to recline. Since you're eating it with the maror, and the maror, you don't need to recline for that. However, some say you do need to recline. Now, because of the matzah over there, right? Even though you already ate the matzah while you recline, nevertheless, this commemorates what Hillel did. In Hillel, he would not eat matzah before the korech, and therefore he would recline. He would do hazeba. Correct? He would fill his obligation of matzah with this. So therefore, you need to recline. So too, we also need to recline, and that is the main halacha. However, post facto, after the fact, if a person did not recline, person forgot and he ate the korech without reclining. Remember, the matzah, you have to go back. That a bracha. However, if a person did not recline, it's actually a whole discussion with the bracha. It's another topic in itself. If a person did not recline though for this, you could rely on the first opinion, who said that since you have Mara in here, you don't need to recline, and therefore you would not need to go back b'diavad. Very important Shulchan Aruch Rav. Just going to take a look at the Piskei Teshuvos. We're running on time. If we have 3 minutes, we could do the whole Mishnah Berurah in 3 minutes. We could fly through it. We already know all the information because we saw it already in the tour and the Beis Yosef and everything. There's one os on the halachas that we're doing. Oh, really two. Over here, when it comes to the Mara, the korech over here, and the idea over here. The truth is, actually, there's not necessarily so much that we need to see. There was one thing that I wanted to share over here. He goes into this, by the way. He likes the Zeichel Mikdash Kiel. I say personally, you have nothing to lose by going like the Ber Halacha. You really have nothing to lose. It's not, Chaim Kanievsky already says it's not considered you're changing your minhag. It's fine. He says over here you have to be very careful not to talk until even after the Afikomen. Look, this is not the general halacha, but just realize that it's out there. Be careful not to talk sichas chulin about matters that don't have to do with the Seder until after Afikomen.
That is full order.
Because the bracha of alachilas matzah is going on the Afikomen. I'm saving the stringencies in the shark part. If you made it towards over here, whoever's watching this, if you made it to here, you could already handle this. All right. Look, the idea is, hashkafa is, this is what the Seder should be. It's like I've said before, the Seder is not a time to start catching up with your family and start schmoozing with everyone. Do that the Suda the next day. Do that any other time. The Seder is a very kadosh time. It's holy, it's auspicious, it's special. And we have to get serious. And therefore, we have to focus on what we're supposed to do over here. Look, is this one of the most intense things you've ever heard about the Seder? Yes. Does it have substance to it? Is it reasonable? I think so. And then he says, furthermore, fitting, and it's good to refrain from the beginning of Kiddush until at the end of Hallel. Talking about matters that don't have to do with the Seder and Divrei Torah. The Shlosh says that the holiness of this night and all the halachas are very, very holy. Hashem chose us from all the other nations and He sanctified us through His mitzvahs. And therefore, it's fitting that a person should be careful not to talk at this night anything that doesn't have to do with Torah or the Seder. And you should warn, says the Shlosh, your family members about this, and you should be involved with mitzvahs the entire night and talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus, and publicizing it to your family members. Then he says you should learn about the Korban Pesach because we can't bring the Korban Pesach, and learning it is considered as if you bring it. Look, is this the most intense thing you've ever heard? Yes.
Technically supposed to be bringing it $1, no?
Yeah.
You're eating at this point.
Yeah. That's what you learn about it. Consider as if you're eating about it. Let's quickly try to fly through the Mishnah Berurah. I said we could do it in 3 minutes. I wasn't kidding. Here we go. You got 3 minutes on the timer. Get ready, set. You can start timing. Let's see how fast we can do the Mishnah Berurah. Matzah Shlishis. The third matzah, Kedei L'Kayim mitzvah b'shlosh osin. You want to fulfill the mitzvahs all 3 matzahs. That's why you have the third. You need a kazayis of matzah and maror, size of an owl. B'tam krichazo, what's the reasoning for this sandwich? As we already learned, Kedei says so in order to fulfill that which Hillel said, that the pasuk of that you're going to have it with the Korban Pesach with matzah and maror, you're going to eat it all together. Rak bazeh yidei achilos matzah ve'achilos mar yiv shabbos man azeh afilu hill. But the full obligation of matzah and mar, you can't do that nowadays. Given the mar's man is the like a pesach in and since the mar nowadays is only rabbinic obligation, like we learned that that we don't have the korban pesach. So then comes along the flavor of the mar, or comes along the mitzvah mar, and it's going to negate, it's going to cancel, nullify the flavor, aka the mitzvah that is a chiyah d'oraisa, an obligation from the Torah even nowadays. That's why you have to eat from all of them individually by themselves, aka the matzah and then the marvach, then you eat them together. In order that you remember what happened in the time when the base of Mikdash was around and they brought the korban pesach. And according to Hillel, that they would eat all of them together. So you dip it in the charotza shari krichazo hizech lemikdash. Gehilel, because this remembers the base of mikdash like Hillel. Hillel would use the charosis when he did the sandwich. Your question before, you can tell I didn't read this Mishnah in a few years. Because he didn't eat the maror at all before this sandwich, so for sure he would use the charosis. That's why we would use charosis. You got to shake the charosis off just like maror, which is before. So that's according to the Mama Mordechai. The Mishnah Berurah seems like you want to shake the charosis off in both places, also by the sandwich. What's the reasoning that you shouldn't use the charosis? You fulfill the mitzvah on the first dipping. You don't need to worry about the poison in the maror since you already ate it with the matzah in the sandwich. That's no. The main opinion is going to be like the first opinion, which says to use the charoisis, but whatever your custom is legitimate. Then he says when you say Zechel Mikdash, look at the Be'er Halacha. So he doesn't say his whole Torah, but he just references to the Be'er Halacha. He says the text by us in the Haggadah, that's what Hillel did when the base of Mikdash was around. He would wrap it with the matzah and maror v'oichlem biyachad, aka not the Pesach. Some say you would say Pesach, different texts. Bochen, you'd eat it. Look over there that you don't need to swallow it all together. You just start chewing in your mouth. Same thing over here. Why do you recline? Because the matzah you wrote the